DLC is happening. 100%. Almost certainly going to have the arenas, which will get people out of invasions, which will be nice. There's like 6 new weapon types, unspecified. They may not appear in the DLC, but there's like 6 in the files, so like they have them in data mined. They've had a lot of, they have flails and shit. Who knows what they'll put out? I'm hoping for weapon catalysts, or at the very least, on weapons, I want ashes to cast spells, on staves and seals, and I want, like, take a staff and make it cast incantations, and take a seal and make it cast sorceries. Even if it's like, at some detriment, which they had a legit pull weapon, like a, you know, like a bow staff or something. It depends on where they go. Like, I think I don't know, I don't have any confidence of where they might go for the DLC anymore. My initial impression was maybe, I mean, I thought they would go to the moon or something. That was my guess. You would go to the moon and find out that there's an entity on the moon that is controlling Mikola, or Mikola has a second half that has been controlled by an outer god or whatever, and that was actually Saint Trina or something like that, you know what I mean? Technically, they're the same. Like, I was expecting, like, basically like a Dark Moon version of the Radigan America thing. But also, it would make for, like, break the rules terrain and environments. Could have areas that are like magically stabilized to have regular gravity, but other places that are like moon gravity and all the weirdness that comes with. I could see, if From wanted to be really lame about it, I could see going to like the Land of Reeds, or, you know, I can imagine like picking for like 1 or 2 DLCs, having like 2 different areas you go to. One would be the Land of Reeds, because it just seems to be a really easy choice. The other one, probably the Badlands, where, you know, Horalu's place, basically. You'd like more spells or weapons in the Briar. Yeah, I think there's no reason why they wouldn't have put together the school system and not try to expand on it. I will say this, though, that I think the school system was added later, because the ID for the moon sorceries is the first ID in the list. It's like 1 or 2 or something. The whole idea of having schools in the game was a later game addition. I think it was something like sorceries got them first or something, and then I trying to remember what the numbers were, but it was like the numbers were really weird and very telling. Has there been any non-portal DLCs that don't, like, well, I think it's possible that they might have DLC that's in the world, and the reason why is because some of the DLC, or some of the data mine files, indicated something to the effect of like changes to the existing areas that weren't active. It's not super clear, and remember, anything that's left into a game in the game files is potentially not going to exist. It might be something they were tinkering with and just left in by accident or something. Some of the stuff specifically was marked, like it was explicitly marked DLC, but that also doesn't necessarily have to happen either. You hope the arena's legit? Well, yeah, so people have, even before 107, people have gone into, like, I don't remember which the ones they've gone into, but like these arenas, you know, this one, the Great Jar Arena, there is terrain for them. 107 added the, like, so you know how when you died, it says you died. And remember how in like all the earlier games, they had all the like fanfares that would show up to say like, oh, victory, it's a draw, you lose, whatever. Those fanfare animations have been added. Those are in 107 now. So okay, I'm gonna explain this, but I think what happened is 1 or 2 things. Either they're not ready, but they wanted to throw out something because they had something robust, which was the 107 balance patch, which is really great. And they probably wanted to get some balance data sooner than later, because of the arenas are gonna make that important to have, right? This is apparently like the first pass for a major balance change that is specific PvP and PvE balance. They were very clear when they released 107, saying that they are absolutely intending to use this in the future as necessary. And there's 2 things about that that's very important to recognize about how they said that. One is that no big developer will ever tell you that they intend to do anything in any ambiguous manner if they're not already busy doing it, or it's set in stone. Because, like, just imagine we're going to do it and then we never did, and then, like, all people, like, years later saying, oh, fucking Elden Ring never got that fucking patch, fuck FromSoft, they didn't do this and that, even though they said they were going to do it. No, like, no developer ever wants to say something until it's already basically, like, in progress, right? There will be another balance pass, probably another significant balance pass, and I think this first one was ripping off the Band-Aid, getting the skills out of the way so they're not so busted. Now that we can see what was being covered up by skills being so strong. So one of them was like not having strong crowd control, especially spellcasters and basically any like strong wide swinging melee build, right? That was a big one. So freaking Royal Magma got buffed. Ranker Call, which is sort of crowd control, got buffed. Crystal Release got buffed. And some of these got buffed multiple times. Ice Storm got buffed. Stormcaller got buffed. Fucking Thunderstorm got buffed. I think what they're probably going to do is, I can see tamping down melee damage a tiny bit, a high level, and I can see the crowd control stuff getting buffed a little bit more. Probably Moonveil's damage will probably get nerfed a teensy bit. I can imagine taking the projectile damage down a bit, and then increasing the blade damage a bit. So like sort of like what River's got. Okay, so the other thing is for me hovering over SteamDB, there were two separate depots that were updated that have not been updated in a long time. I think one of them didn't exist at all, and the other one hadn't been updated since before Elden Ring was released. So one of the depots on SteamDB, so basically this is like FromSoft uploading shit to Steam behind the scenes, like private stuff, but you can at least see some of the names and stuff. One of the depots is called, was it called Media Review? Media Agency, that was what it was. One of them is called Media Agency, and they hadn't updated that since before the game was released, right? And I think that's going to like Bandai Namco and their PR firms to get ready to spread the news about the game, maybe record some footage, with like debug camera stuff, right? And the second thing is there was a depot that I hadn't seen before. I don't know if it's ever existed before now, called Alt Release. The builds that they typically have are dev debug, QA debug, I think it's dev release and QA release. Those are like big ones that they update pretty often. But alt release is interesting because that makes me think that they have a version of the game with the DLC dumped into it that they are testing right now. Even though it's a work week, it had been days since, and obviously they released a patch recently too. They had not posted an update. Yeah, 6 days ago is when Public got updated, and Public is just the release copy of the game. Media Agency got updated for the first time in ages 12 days ago and then 6 days ago. Alt release got added 13 days ago. Alt debug and 13 days ago as well. Development was updated 13 days ago. Oh, and the other thing. Oh, okay, so here's the other thing. So there is a rating release depot that got put out as well, and that hadn't been updated in forever. So rating release is almost certainly sending it to like ESRB and PEGI and whatnot in order to get rated, which means new enough content to where they must have another rating session of the game. That pretty much confirms that there is some significant action behind DLC, and it's late enough to send it to media, whether it's Bandai Namco or whatever, but also to have it rated. It's late enough and finalized enough to be at that point. It doesn't mean that it's done, and there's probably a lot of like bug fixing and polish to do, but they're very close. I would say no later than 2 months from now. I'm sure one of these versions is going to go to cert, but I don't know if they have a cert specific depot. If you're sending it in for cert, then you're probably going to pass it to like, it'll be like a QA release type of depot. I'd imagine their QA and cert are probably running on similar, well, yeah, I don't know. It could be on similar builds. I think what's probably going to happen is we'll get a small piece of like single player DLC, and then we'll probably get the arenas. That'll probably be the next thing. And I'm willing to bet that there is a reasonable chance that there will be a few more balance changes. Not like a ton, not like a 2-hour read to go through them all, like 107 was. I would imagine like 10 solid changes. So speaking of the DLC, I was fucking full on deflated relating this on Twitter earlier, like literally like tearing up because I can internalize that feeling so strongly. Did anybody see Wooly Wooly's playthrough of Elden Ring? Really excellent playthrough overall, but at the beginning, a big like soul crushing moment. And before I go into the detail for that, it's going to become very clear when I do. The DLC has some sort of data mined information, or well, the 107 has some information that hints towards new hairstyles coming with the DLC. And it immediately made me think of Wooly, because at the beginning of Wooly versus playthrough, he's like trying to make a character, right? And, he figured there'd be like one, fucking random ass hair. Like usually it's like you get it, like they'll just throw like an afro or something as the only hairstyle that you get that's going to work, right? And he's like scrolling up and down the list, and then like double checking it and then triple checking it, and there is nothing. There's all like fucking like white people hairstyles basically. His voice is crumbling. Reggie's trying to give some like to have some manner of half distraction, half cheering him up, half injecting some positivity into it, but like he had made a comment something like, "I just want to make me," and the way he said it was like punch me in the gut. And I hope that there are more diverse hairstyles in some future update to the game. The Demon's Souls update had a lot of choices. I don't know how much variety there was, but there's a bunch. Street Fighter 6 has enormous amounts of choice. I mean, Street Fighter 6 really needed, because if they were going full on hip-hop style for their music and their presentation, it's beyond disrespectful if they didn't. Street Fighter 6 obviously has apparently excellent choices, maybe some physics problems with the hair, but they're getting it fixed. It's a beta.